All right, my friends, thank you so much for joining me today. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you 3 books that I'm currently reading. Stick around to find out what my thoughts are on them and whether you'd be interested in selecting them for yourself. Now, if you find yourself of like mind, all you need to do is visit the description box down below, and I'll provide a link to each one of these books so you can acquire it for yourself. Now, at the making of this video, it's October 21st. Halloween is creeping up on us, just 10 days away. Of course, around my house, it's Halloween every day because my wife loves horror movies like no one else I've ever met in my life. So much of the house is Halloween or horror themed. That's just the way she likes, the kind of gal she is. Look at this sign above our bedroom door entryway. Overlook Hotel. It's from The Shining, right? My wife loves The Shining. She considers it a comfort movie. Anyway, she says that about Jaws too. Like, this is what she watches to fall asleep. Strange girl. However, let's move on. Now, before I dive headlong into a discussion of the books, let me share with you what I have in my beard. You may wonder why. That's because many of my viewers are here first because of my beard-related content. They're going to want to know. So what I have in my beard today is Mad Viking's Sonic Brew Beard Oil from their Black Label Society collection. Doesn't this just seem appropriate for this season? It's pretty cool, right? I love this. And Mad Viking has so many things to offer, but I've had this for a while and I just love the way this is packaged. And I also have their Sonic Brew Beard Balm in here, and with this comes a guitar pick. All right, very nice. Now, if you are interested in that for yourself, you can go to madviking.com. I'll put a link for that down below. Use my code MVGreg15. That'll save you 15%, not just on that, but on everything they have to offer. And you basically can't find anything there that you wouldn't like. It's just a terrific beard product company. So let's talk about what we're actually here for. A daily reading habit is something that most people don't have because they haven't yet bought into the idea that the implementation of one would be so good for their well-being. Let me encourage you, with the weekend upon you, to make a stop at your local library or bookstore and just pick out 2 or 3 books that fairly quickly appeal to your eye without giving it too much thought, and bring them home and sit alone by yourself if you can. Crack them open and read a few pages out of each one and see what that does for you over the next week or two, and tell me if I'm wrong, that I think it's a habit you'll want to keep. Listen to what George R.R. Martin, author of Game of Thrones, once said. "A reader lives 1,000 lives before he dies. The man who never reads lives only once." Would you agree with that statement? Put your comment down below. Let me know what you think. I happen to side with Martin on this. While traveling the world and seeing a lot of different places and things would be grand, what's even nicer is getting into the lives of characters, whether they be fiction or biographical, and finding out how they lived, getting into their skin and into their mind and seeing things through their eyes and their experience. It adds a different color and hue to your own personal life and experiences. I can't even begin to tell you how often my own soul has been comforted by the common adversity shared with the people in the pages. Likewise, I've also felt chastised and brought to task for unsavory aspects of my own character that has been reflected by the villains in the stories. See, this is what books do. They tell you something about yourself. They don't always make you feel good either. They tell you things that your own friends won't tell you. It makes you want to live your life a little bit differently in a much more meaningful way. But these are just some of the many reasons why it's important to read. That's why I encourage you to do it. So the first book on the docket is Frankenstein. I didn't get this because Halloween's coming up. I got it mainly because one of my kids told me a while back that the book is nothing like the movie. I don't know whether that's true or not, but it kind of surprised me because there are books like A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, where the movies do portray the book very well. Even The Great Gatsby, to some degree, is pretty accurate. But Frankenstein, if it's not like the movies, what is it really like? So I picked this up, and my youngest daughter is very excited because she wants to read it too. And this book was first written in 1818, or at least published in 1818. Mary Shelley is the author, and let me tell you something. This woman can write. That's the thing about writers of that day and age, is they had a mastery of the English language that is long gone, as far as I can tell. But it's really really pleasing to read, and I can tell you right up front, even though I'm not very far into the book yet, I do believe this is a book that I'm going to want to read more than once, maybe more than twice. Let me read to you a couple of paragraphs to show you how Mary Shelley hooked me at the very beginning. A captain is writing home, talking about something he has seen he thinks he probably should not have seen, far from civilization. And it's intriguing. So strange an accident has happened to us that I cannot forbear recording it, although it is very probable that you will see me before these papers can come into your possession. Last Monday, July 31st, we were nearly surrounded by ice, which closed in the ship on all sides, scarcely leaving her the sea room in which she floated. Our situation was somewhat dangerous, especially as we were compassed round by a very thick fog. We accordingly lay to, hoping that some change would take place in the atmosphere and weather. About 2 o'clock, the mist cleared away, and we beheld, stretched out in every direction, vast and irregular plains of ice which seemed to have no end. Some of my comrades groaned, and my own mind began to grow watchful with anxious thoughts, when a strange sight suddenly attracted our attention and diverted our solicitude from our own situation. We perceived a low carriage, fixed on a sledge and drawn by dogs, pass on towards the north at the distance of half a mile. A being, which had the shape of a man but apparently of gigantic stature, sat in the sledge and guided the dogs. We watched the rapid progress of the traveler with our telescopes until he was lost among the distant inequalities of the ice. This appearance excited our unqualified wonder. We were, as we believed, many hundred miles from any land, but this apparition seemed to denote that it was not in reality so distant as we had supposed. Shut in, however, by ice, it was impossible to follow his track, which we had observed with the greatest attention. And you can anticipate what that must have been, what little you know of the story of Frankenstein. But this is a facet that I had never seen in a movie. I've not seen everything that's out there, but I find that intriguing. So I'm really looking forward to getting through this book, and I'm not very far into it, but I'm happy I picked it up. And I've read enough to know that if you like good fiction, you like good writing, this is one you want to pick up. Now, the second book that I've been reading is by Charles J. Hanley, called Ghost Flames: Life and Death in a Hidden War, Korea, 1950 to 1953. Now, I'm not a big military history buff, but I realized one day that I know virtually nothing about the Korean War. And you know what? Most people don't. It's always about World War II, the Vietnam War, but there's a reason why most people don't know. There's a lot of cover-up about what went on over there. The atrocities are abysmal, heartbreaking, devastating. It's really hard to read and not feel angry. And I'm also very fortunate. I feel very fortunate that I didn't live in that day and age where I had to go fight in that war. But this is something that I think people need to learn something about. Let me read you the inside leaflet of this book so you can kind of get a gander at what we're talking about. The war that broke out in Korea on a Sunday morning 70 years ago has come to be recognized as a critical turning point in modern history as the first great clash of arms of the Cold War, the last conflict between superpowers, the root of a nuclear crisis that grips the world to this day. In this vivid, emotionally compelling, and highly original account, Charles J. Hanley tells the story of the Korean War through the eyes of 20 individuals who lived through it, from a North Korean refugee girl to an American nun, a Chinese general to a Black American prisoner of war, a British journalist to a U.S. Marine hero. This is an intimate, deeper kind of history whose meticulous research and rich detail, drawing on recently unearthed materials and eyewitness accounts, bring the true face of the Korean War and the vastness of its human tragedy into a sharper focus than ever before. The forgotten war becomes unforgettable. Well, like it says, it does follow 20 different people. One of the things I really like about this book is in the beginning, it has a list of the characters, pictures of them. So it's a little bit easier to track them and remember who they are in the story as you go along, because you can go back and put the faces with the names. And also, what's interesting is he doesn't tell the story just from one point of view. You hear about it from the North Korean side, the South Korean side, and the Americans, also the communists and the anti-communists. So there's a lot of different variables that are going on there. So it seems very unbiased, and I think it's giving a very good account of what goes on. And I was just amazed at, as I'm reading this, I'm just baffled at why we were never taught this stuff. But it becomes kind of clear that there are some things that not only the American government but other nations felt like they needed to consider. Now, the third book I have found myself immersed in lately and enjoying quite a bit is Down and Out in Paradise, The Life of Anthony Bourdain by Charles Learson. Now, I would not define myself as an Anthony Bourdain fan, but I've always enjoyed No Reservations and Parts Unknown. I've always thought he was entertaining, would be a cool guy to sit down and have a conversation with, because his stories would be abundant. I wouldn't even have to say anything. I wouldn't want to talk. I would just want to know this guy and just kind of be in his presence for a while to find out what his life was really like. But we don't really know a lot about him because he kept things pretty close to his vest and he cut his life short early. Now, I know there's a lot of conspiracies about how that might have abruptly ended, like maybe somebody else did it for some reason, but I do believe he took his own life, and I think it's a shame. But the author here tries to unravel the puzzle, and he has a great way of writing. I think that makes this flow very well. Let me read you the inside leaflet in the back of this book so that you understand what this is all about. It says, Tony's relationship with celebrity was complicated. Most of the time, he enjoyed being famous. His drinking buddies knew all too well that he had a Google alert for Anthony Bourdain set to As It Happens and configured as a push notification on his iPhone. We'd be sitting at a bar, David McMillan, a co-founder of the Joe Beef restaurant group in Montreal, told me, and his phone would be going ping, ping, ping every time his name was mentioned somewhere. It was insane. He loved it, but made me feel like a grandpa saying, put that damn thing away. When the phone sat silent for too long, Tony would take to social media to say something that might get people talking about him again. One favorite tactic was to knock another TV chef for endorsing a shoddy line of cooking gear or slipping a product plug into his show, things he never did, though it did cost him a lot of money. There was, he knew, nothing like a celebrity feud to get his iPhone pinging. Notoriety, to a great extent, was a game for him, McMillan said. He got a real kick out of playing around with his power. A year before Tony killed himself, when he was arguably as famous as anyone in America, he told a reporter, "If I'm unhappy, it's a failure of imagination." Wow. So let me read the inside leaflet. Bourdain became a celebrity at age 44 with his best-selling book, Kitchen Confidential. He parlayed that success into a series of hit television shows, including the Food Channel's Anthony Bourdain, No Reservations, and CNN's Parts Unknown. But his charisma belied a troubled spirit. Drug and alcohol addiction and an obsession with perfection and personal integrity ruined 2 marriages and turned him into a boss from hell, even as millions became increasingly intrigued by the ever-curious and genuinely empathetic traveler they saw on TV. Bourdain was already running out of steam physically and emotionally when he fell hard for an Italian actress who could be even colder to him than he sometimes was to others, and who effectively drove a wedge between him and his young daughter. Down and Out in Paradise tells the true and full Bourdain story for the first time, relating the highs and lows and surprising twists of an extraordinary life. Charles Learson shows how Bourdain's never-before-reported childhood traumas fueled both his creativity and the insecurities that would lead him to a place of despair. This is the frank, perceptive, and intimate biography that Bourdain fans have been waiting for. Well, I think this is going to be quite fun to read. I'm several chapters into it, and this is another one I do not want to put down. Guys like Anthony Bourdain, even Charles Kuralt, guys like that really changed the way that we viewed entertainment. These were people who went out into the streets, talked to the everyday man, and showed how we could relate to people through food and experiences and through compassion. And that's one of the things I really enjoyed about him, and it's one of the things that helped YouTube become so big, because you have so many people doing something like this now. We can thank people like him for it. So it's one of the reasons why I like him, and so many people do. I feel like I've held this book up forever. I don't know why I think you need to look at it that much, but there you go. Those are the 3 books that I've been reading, and I hope I can make more videos like this and share my thoughts on them. So anyway, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you've gotten something out of it. I know I say that in every video, but I truly mean it. And I look forward to hearing from you and to talking to you again. Have a great day.